I actually have a lot more to say. I apologize in advance. I'll try to keep it to about 5 minutes. This was a successful season for Pee Wee A1, although success was not always in the win-loss column. We were a young and small team coming from 5 different teams, which made it both fun and challenging at the same time. It took us a little while to get them to play together as a team and for each other, but when they did, they were really fun to watch. We decided to challenge the players and play up in Tier 3. We struggled early against the bigger, stronger Pee Wee A teams, but the kids held it together, probably better than the coaches held it together at times. And we had a good second half of the season, really closing the margin in games against the Pee Wee A teams, competing well against the A1 teams and dominating the Pee Wee B teams. We had a coaching staff of 6, which I thought at the beginning of the season was a lot, but by the end of the season, each of us had run practices by ourselves due to everyone's busy schedules. All you coaches know what I mean. It was a good group of guys, and I'd like to thank them for their contributions. Steve Salcido, Kurt Erickson, John Calcavecchia, John Murray, and Robbie Meisner. I'd also like to thank our manager, Patty Roth, who managed a family, a career, the birth of a child, and the team. Lastly, Steve Salcido, who helped me organize a year-end A1 tournament. That was a whole lot of work, more than I could ever imagine. The awards this year were determined by voting of the coaches. These choices are hard every year, but this year we found it particularly challenging. This was a team that had no real superstars. Rather, it was a group of pretty talented kids that individually shone at different times during the season. I don't remember a team with as many kids in the running for each of these awards, but we had to narrow it down, so here we go. First, I want to start with Most Improved Player. I think it's the most important award because I believe everything we do here is about development. The definition of the player for me is someone whose skills and performance best developed over the whole season, leading them to play at a high level consistently at the end of the season. Half the team was legitimate in consideration for this award, but this player stood out. This year's MIP started out as a reserve player, more worried about making a mistake than making the play. Everything about this player improved over the season. Skating stride, speed, decision-making, stick handling, shot, position play, and aggressive engagement. By the end of the season, this player was a force on the ice, being recognized by several opposing coaches. This player was a consideration for all 3 awards, and someone the Avon program should be proud of. She's leaving the program to play girls hockey next year. The Pee Wee A1 MIP is Kelly Maurer. Coaches have different definitions of the Coaches Award, but for me, this is the kid you want on your team every year. A top player who's liked and respected by the coaches and the players, gives 100% in every practice and every game. This year's recipient was loved by all the coaches and was a contender for multiple awards. The player brought the same all-out effort in every game and practice and never needed to be motivated or redirected. The player was a two-way player who was always productive, contributing goals and many assists with unselfish play. He was often the smallest player on the ice, but also usually the toughest player on the ice. I remember one game watching him go into a corner against 2 monster players from the other team. I literally lost sight of him, and then he came out with the puck and the other 2 players were on the ground. The kids fed off his energy, and he was a pleasure to coach. The Coaches Award goes to Carson Roth. Again, we didn't have any one standout player. We had goal scorers, playmakers, two-way players, scrappy players, skill players. Our definition of MVP required that the recipient of all of these, plus be a consistent top performer and also show leadership on and off the ice and be a positive influence on the play of the rest of the team. This year's recipient was also one of those players that brought the same game every time he stepped on the ice. He's a two-way player, versatile, scrappy in the corners, unselfish with the most assists on the team, and productive with the second most goals, and he always had a smile on his face. There were 2 games this season that were emotional turning points for our team. One was our first win in Tier 3. against West Hartford, which is the team I want to beat the most every time they step on the ice. The win came well into the season, much later than we all would have liked, but it was a great team effort and a milestone for us. The second was late in the season when we played the top Tier 3 team in the Southern Division, the Riverhawks, and in a seesaw battle, lost by only 1 goal and arguably dominated them. This recipient had 3 goals and an assist in each of those games, and he was at his best when it was a big game. I've coached this player his entire hockey career and told me he would never win an award with me. But he got the coach's vote, and a few of the guys talked me into it. So this should be a surprise to him. The Pee Wee A1 MVP is Kyle Becker.